Hey everybody, welcome back to Guys on Draft. Boy, oh boy, was it a weekend? We're just gonna get right into it. We're doing a playoff recap as Phil is either coming back from the ether or is in it still. There he is.
I'm here.
We got Mark. He's in a Serbia hideout right now. We have no idea.
Serbian. Serbian.
Do
Is that
not give away my whereabouts.
all right?
Do not disclose location.
We're gonna do actually no, we're not gonna do a TikTok take. I was just about to segue into something that I didn't prepare for. So we'll
Nobody said
follow
anything
on.
about the Eagles online.
Maybe a little bit. Just in general, probably.
What
But yeah,
about
so
AJ Brown at the fight the night before?
yeah. Well, before we get into really anything, just this is a NFL playoff recap episode of I guess technically week 19. I don't know whatever you want to call it. Wild card weekend. Crazy, super fun. Had a lot of fun wild card weekend. A lot of games happened. I don't really
Sounds
know.
like Phil's already recapping. I'm
Yeah,
liking Phil's
so
recap.
there's no TikTok take. Go follow us on our socials at G1 Podcast or wherever you currently browse the internet because we're on it. And
Mhm.
quick little plug from Thrive Fantasy. If you do your daily fantasy, do it through Thrive Fantasy. Click the link in the bio, scan the QR code on screen. They do a lot of cool things. They match $250 on the first deposit instantaneously,
Yeah,
so
they
you can get
do.
500. Click a little half a grand in there that you can play
Hmm.
around with. Even make a parlay. You can throw in a free prop square. We've got things like Pat Mahomes 0.5 passing yards. I mean Tyreek Hill when he was still playing football this season, 0.5 reception yards. You know all the fun things. Lamar
Oh,
Jackson
yeah.
5 rushing yards perhaps. It'll probably be on screen for you. It's definitely going to be in the link in the bio or the QR code on screen. Promo code guys if you're already currently using Thrive Fantasy, and it helps the show. So hey, like, subscribe, maybe use Thrive Fantasy for your daily fantasy. Without further ado,
Half a Gino.
half a
Did
G
they
note.
did they have Jalen Hurts over a touchdown?
Mm. Uh,
Let's
they have, yeah. I guess we can start with that game, right? It's fresh on our minds. It's pretty
do
epic.
it.
Yeah. So who wants to start?
I think you should start. I mean, oh, you know what? I'll start. Wow, what a game, huh? I mean, I did pick that game. I picked that one. I picked that right. Hey, let's be real. I've said this for a while. All Daniel Jones jokes aside, any quarterback that does not have a legitimate wide receiver threat, if his name is not Tom Brady, is going to struggle. There was a clear difference with the Eagles once they traded for AJ Brown. When you take away a guy that demands so much attention, and as good as Devonta Smith is, they could key on him. And, there's a handful of quarterbacks in the history of the league that could function in an offense at a high level without that kind of guy. So, as is my point with all quarterbacks, especially when I was defending Mr. Daniel Jones, who again had his leading receiver be Darius Slayton this year and last year and the year before, is that you need a real guy there to see what a quarterback can really do, unless he's a Patrick Mahomes, who we've seen struggle this year with two of the guys that played for the Giants last year, or Aaron Rod. There's certain guys that could rise above that. But I think, as much as I want to make fun of Jalen Hurts, he is who he was before AJ Brown was there. A guy with talent that, needs pieces around him and he can play well. He's a good leader, all that stuff. But that's my 2 cents on it. And I want to know how you feel going forward with
Yeah.
that roster
What?
and the cap
That's a
situation.
that's a great point that you bring up though, because Jalen Hurts, like we've said before, there were question marks last season before the AJ Brown pickup. Is Jalen Hurts the guy? Is he the quarterback of the future? Is Jalen Hurts going to win the job? Is Jalen Hurts going to play an entire season? Then they pick up AJ Brown in that masterful trade on draft day to pair up with Devontae Smith, and then Dallas Goddard. They had Zach Ertz was there last year, I think, too, right?
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, about
Yeah.
halfway through the season.
So I mean,
half of the season.
he had all kinds of weapons at his disposal, and as those were taken away, you kind of saw Jalen Hurts be reduced back to the questionable Jalen Hurts prior to the acquisition of all those targets.
You could say the
I
same for Josh Allen too.
Two, yeah, potentially, yeah. I mean, to a degree, I get what you're saying. I do want to say real quick, the first thing that I thought about was Devonta Smith had like 180 yards receiving yesterday. He was the
Yeah.
only thing that he led us to that touchdown drive. So I think Smitty deserves a lot of credit. Him and Jake Elliott are the only things that I trust right now in the entire organization, and maybe Howie Roseman a little bit. I think having AJ Brown does mean a whole lot, obviously, but I really just think I give the opposite of whatever credit is to play calling, to offensive scheming. We beat the Bucks week 3 with 250 or 236 rushing yards. DeAndre Swift had 8 carries for like 30 yards. We ran the ball twice to start the game and then abandoned it four rushing attempts after that. Didn't I think rush until the second half. We have not played. We haven't called offensive play calling hasn't been in rhythm all season. I've been saying that since the beginning of the season. My biggest takeaway: get rid of this guy. I'm silver lining is kind of cleaning house. I mean, I don't like anything on defense right now. This is the first time that I could blame the actual players. I think tackling was disgusting, but it's been Matt Patricia, Sean Desai, it's been Brian Johnson, and it's been Nick Sirianni not fixing it. As an Eagles fan, I've seen for the last 6 weeks, there have been glaring problems. And yeah, I'm like a Twitter warrior fan, like just of the team. Of course, I've got
7 weeks.
Yeah, 7 weeks. I've got things to say about it, obviously, and I think I have the problem solved, obviously, from sitting on the couch. But to
Yeah.
not see anything be even remotely fixed or changed aside from the coaching choice of putting Patricia on the field and deciding the booth, which was probably the wrong call. It should have been on offense. It just sucks. I mean, I was saying this in our group chat, but history repeats itself. I mean, the Eagles play in a Super Bowl. The next season, our OC goes to the Colts as their head coach, and we become a first round exit. And then the dark ages are upon us. I don't know. The biggest thing about it is Jason Kelsey's retiring. Brandon Graham says he wants to come back on his farewell season next year. Fletcher Cox is on a 1-year deal. Literally all 3 starting linebackers are on 1-year deals. Our wide receiver 3 is a free agent. So am I saying we're going to be like bottom of the league? Am I saying that all hope is lost? It sounds like it, but really I think we're just needing to restart again in some type of degree that like the Packers did this year or the Rams were in that vibe of a season. We just got to figure it out. And I think it starts with getting rid of coaches. I'm okay with Nick Sirianni staying. I'm also okay if they give him the boot. I am expecting the Brian Johnson and the Matt Patricia graphics in 24 hours.
Hey, Mark, you
I'm
got
curious to
anything?
I'm curious to see how many Georgia defensive players you guys pick up in the draft this year, because that defense was horrible yesterday. They couldn't stop shit.
Our young corners like Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks, I like some of our players on defense. Our defensive line had a very weird season as well, but I have to contribute this to play calling. I mean, these wide open gaps for Baker Mayfield to say, Chris Olave, be ready. You know what you're looking at on defense. And on offense, where I think bottom 3 in motion pre-snap, we call if I see another wide receiver screen, I might burn the house down or something like that.
Describe the tackling woes to me then, because you guys did not wrap up 2 of those long touchdowns were shitty tackling.
I haven't seen bad tackling like that all season. Maybe that's spirit of the locker room. Maybe that's fatigue after these big gashes because of defensive calling. Maybe it's practice. That tackling in practice was whatever. For some reason, we switched things in for playoff mode. But I haven't seen tackling like that all years. So like I said before, I'll blame defensive players this time around as well. But I just think the root cause is coaching and decision making and schemes. And Nick Sirianni has done nothing to show me that he can help fix that problem or at least stop the bleeding a little bit.
All right, I want to say I'm going to try to make this short, okay? But because I want to talk about the Bucks too. I think we should talk about the Bucks. But I just want to address 2 of the things you said. The defensive thing. I think a big part of it is the overreaction to firing your D coordinator so late in the season. Yeah. It's kind of an integrated new system. And I've seen Ray Lewis breaking down some of those big plays. I don't
It's
know if you've seen that. And what
not
he was
honest.
talking about, just practicing contact, bad angles because you're not practicing tackling. So that's a thing. And then part of it, I think, is the system. You have good players. I mean,
Yeah.
Slay, Bradbury is a 2-time Pro Bowl corner.
Yeah, but Bradbury could get cut too, to be honest. Like
But
he
I'm
has
just
had
saying, but these are guys that have performed. So I
yes.
don't think guys just went out there and forgot how to play football. Bradbury's not old. Darius Slay is a little bit long in the tooth, but he's not, you haven't seen signs of him regressing. So that points to more of a system thing. But I do think you're selling a little bit when you talk about the play calling on offense. I think you're selling the impact of AJ Brown short. Um, there's two things. Well, there's a few things. The first thing that happens when AJ Brown steps off the field is that you basically get a free defender. Now you can shade to Devontae Smith, take him out of the game, and guess what? We're not worried about. We're not worried about your tight end, as talented as he is. He's not Travis Kelsey. He's not a Rob Gronkowski. We're not worried about him breaking the game open. So that means we have that extra defender in the box to contain the only real playmaker you have on the offense besides Devonta Smith, which is Swift. So I'm sure the looks they were getting were the reason that they didn't run him more than 8 times. So there's that impact. And I'll bring up a story, and I always bring up Giant stuff because that's what I know the most. And the year after we beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, we were 13-1. We were cruising, we were dominating teams. We looked 2 times as good as we did the year before. Plaxico Burress shoots himself in the leg. We lose 3 of our last 4 games and get housed in the playoffs. It's hard for a coaching staff to change their game plan when they've been playing and the basically the offenses ran with that guy in mind. Like he's not the point guard, but everything is based on the attention that he gets because he's such a game breaker. You can't just change your game plan that late in the season unless you're, maybe a Belichick.
Yeah.
We've seen Andy Reid, as good as he is, not be able to change his game plans, especially when he was with Philly. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. So, while I hate Sirianni, I don't like his face. I don't like anything about him. I don't necessarily know that he's the reason to blame. I think the AJ Brown thing had a big impact, and I think what you guys got to be worried about is he seems disgruntled. Devonta Smith's due to be paid. You gave a boatload of money to Jalen Hurts. Your defense is getting old. It's
Yeah.
not a great situation.
Yeah, but I trust I trust Howie Roseman a lot. I do think we should resign Smitty. I think that is incredibly worth, and I think he's Philly as well. A couple things with what you said though. AJ Brown's only missed 1 game since we traded for him. It was last night. Yes, that this game specifically, it's hard to change the game plan, but I feel like there was a way to win, and it's establishing the run very early. It's calling stuff in rhythm, which is something that I couldn't trust Sirianni and Brian Johnson to do because of what they haven't been able to do with AJ Brown on the field the last 6 weeks of football in the regular season. We scored 5 touchdowns in 6 games. The
Yeah.
turnovers have been more like and the stats of what we do well and being like bottom I think 5 in like curl routes, for example, when we're like top 4 in efficiency with them, like what we're calling versus what we're not calling, when we're calling things. Motion pre-snap is something I brought up already, but I that stuff's been very glaring to me, and it just has been the same. We flatlined, and that's coaching.
I think last night we saw an example of what it's like when you don't really work on developing your understudies and you're so relied upon your starters. I mean, it's a shame Quez Watkins didn't shoot himself in the leg prior to the game. That way they could bring up somebody from the practice squad that was hungry. I mean, you had Rashad Penny, who you guys signed in the offseason, that just wasted away on the goddamn bench all
Yeah,
season long. You guys did not try to work him into any kind of offensive scheme, even late in the season. You know, a lot of teams, they start to change their offensive scheme late in the season to prepare for the playoffs, to give new looks that people weren't ready for because you've been playing it all season. They didn't do it. They stuck with DeAndre Swift. They tried to run Gainwell in the most obvious of situations. I mean, Gainwell did not disguise any of his screen pass opportunities. Like it was so, this is what we've done all season, but now we're doing it with lesser talent.
Yep.
Come get us.
It just
was
terrible.
It caught up with them big time. To not see Rashad Penny not once last night is, I mean, that honestly, that is a disgusting waste of money at that point.
I
Well,
don't.
I
Well,
mean,
we didn't pay
go
a
ahead
lot, but
before you go
still,
nuts, okay? Before you go nuts, because I know you want to go off. I want to talk about the Bucks, but I
yeah.
do want to ask you one thing. I know you have faith in Roseman, so succinctly, tell me where you are with what we were just talking about. Whether you want to blame the coaches or not, the Rashad Penny thing looks like a big swing and a miss. The
Yeah.
Kevin Byard trade looks like a big swing and a miss.
Mm.
That's got to give you a little bit of pause. And then if you look at the financial projection for
Mm.
your team, it's not awesome. So is the faith still in Roseman 100%? Or are you starting to feel like maybe, a little bit up in the air?
Succinctly, to answer that question, yes, I still have trust in Howie Roseman. I see what he tried to do, maybe where the direction of this team was going, and like, okay, let's add a little bit more pieces like we usually do. We're usually buyers during the trade deadline, that kind of thing. The Rashad Penny thing is it's a question to me. I have no idea why he was a healthy scratch all year long. That doesn't make sense to me. Um, the Kevin Byard thing, I still like Kevin Byard. He is, like you said, a little long in the tooth or whatever that phrase is. I still trust him. I think every year we kind of have these types of things where Howie Roseman, when he makes a deal like this, I think he's like 2 steps ahead or at least thinking of the very next move in the offseason. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not worried. I think there's going to be a little bit of cap magic going on, a trade here or there. Draft choices have been pretty solid the last few years. And the understudy thing is something that we've been able to do well. I mean, drafting guys like Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis to replace Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, drafting Smitty. I'm I'm confident in Roseman. I'm that's the thing that I'm not worried about.
Okay, so now the Bucks. Let's be quick with the Bucks here. What are the thoughts on the Bucks? I mean, I'll make mine really quick. I think this just points out, well, it makes the point of what I was trying to make to Rocky before, is that there's the handful of guys that win you games at quarterback, and then there's a big group of them in the middle that have enough talent that you can win with if you put the right guys around them. Now they benefited from a weak division, obviously. They won it. They won their home game. They beat
Right.
the conference champions from last year. But I do like the way Mayfield's playing, and I really like the way that defense is playing because they do have guys up front. They do have a pretty damn good linebacking core, and I think
Mhm.
that gave Swift problems last night as well.
Yeah, I think their secondary is a little underrated too. I know Devonta Smith went off, for I think he had like 140 or whatever he had, but I think that secondary is underrated. What I will say is, having watched the majority of that game, um, listen, his swag is undeniable, right? Baker Mayfield has always had a high opinion of himself. Baker Mayfield has always had that kind of gamesmanship. But Baker Mayfield made some pretty terrible decisions throwing the ball that just happened to work out because,
That's true.
you know, not to keep throwing daggers at Zach and the Eagles here, but their secondary has not been their strong suit all year long. You
They
know,
That's
should have
true.
scored 70 points.
Baker, that touchdown to Godwin at the very least should have been batted down. But the defensive back was turned around 3 times. Like he threw it off his back foot. It was basically just a Hail Mary prayer, and it was answered. And he did that a couple times and got away with it. I don't see that happening when they face Detroit in Detroit. I really don't, because I think Detroit's got a very young, talented secondary, and Hutchinson is going to get after Mayfield like Mayfield has not experienced in a long time. And I think the buck stops there next week in Detroit.
Oh, pun intended. I will say he did make a couple stupid passes.
Yeah.
Um, I think he's good for that. But
Hmm.
his receivers did drop a few balls last night as well. Um, I think
Oh,
like
that
more
Mike
than,
Evans one was stupid.
yeah, he could. I mean, I never understand when they don't lay out for those. But yeah, I think the critique is valid. I don't know how I feel about the Detroit game. I do think there's a chance that this is a little bit of a trap game if that's, even though that's kind of crazy to say in the playoffs. But I think it was so emotional that when Detroit had the other night, that there's a
Mhm.
potential little bit of a
Interesting.
letdown if the Bucks could jump on them early. Their defense, while they might be talented in the back end, they haven't been anything special this year. Um, Damn, I'm forgetting the point I wanted to make, but shit, it was about Baker. Fuck, what was it?
Well, for
How
me,
Yeah,
how
good
he was
tough.
better, how he was better at Oklahoma than Jalen Hurts, and now he's better in the playoffs than Jalen Hurts.
It
yeah,
wasn't
well,
that.
Baker should have had 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against that defense. We were in that game until the almost the end of the fourth quarter, really. There was a time for I want to say at least 10 minutes of football that there wasn't any offense going by the Bucks.
That's
We had
true.
some pretty good defensive stops there, which was the first time in what feels like a long time. The only things that I like about Tampa is Mike Evans and Todd Bowles. I'm happy for both those guys. Other than that, I do kind of think that Detroit moves on. I'm sure we'll get into like what next or
Yeah, we're
like
gonna
this.
go there next. Oh, I remember what it was. I was gonna say the Bucks. Yeah, they did not. They oh yeah, they went on the road. I want to just remind everybody, they went
We
on the
lost
road
it
and they
again.
beat up the high and mighty Green Bay Packers who lit the Cowboys on fire the other day.
Mm.
And they needed that game too, and the offense played well.
Yeah, I think the
I'm
Bucks.
just saying I'm not sure that I wouldn't be betting the house on the Lions to win next week.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either.
And I'll tell you what, man, I think Rocky's crazy, dude. Having given Rashad White a fair look last night,
He
that
looked
dude's
good.
got wiggle. That
Yeah.
dude's got wiggle. That dude's got vision. I like Rashad White a
He looked
lot.
good, and he
He looked
ran
really good.
hard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know why he doesn't think that he is the man there in Tampa. I don't see Tampa bringing a running back in. I think Rashad
Yeah.
White, he's young, he's explosive. Rashad White can handle the business.
All right, what's the
Well,
next one?
next one we can do probably another. Well, we touched on it. Do we want to talk about Rams Lions at all? What do we want to talk
Yeah,
about
all
with
right.
that?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You're gonna go. I'll be short and sweet with mine. I
Go right
called.
ahead.
This is the other game I got right here. I called this game. I just thought there was too much emotion, too much mojo for the Lions to lose. I knew the Rams were pretty hot, and the Rams was good. Nakua's a stud.
Yeah.
Stafford can still affect the game, in a way that not a lot of quarterbacks can. So
Mhm.
I like them going into next year. They got a young team, and Stafford's probably around for a few more years, but Detroit is legit. I just worry about them and the hangover next week. But they did have to hang on for dear life at the end there, and if not for a missed PI call, they might be home next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a lot of takeaways from that game. One is Hutchinson is an absolute animal. That guy, when he wants to get after it, can get after it. I mean, there's not many people stopping that bull rush on the outside. Um, Another huge takeaway, dude. Matt Stafford is low key top 5 best quarterbacks talent wise in the league, hands down. Guy changes arm angles, guy drops body angles, throws absolute dimes, doesn't put his receivers typically in a position to get absolutely cremated. He threw one where he dropped his body angle, arm angle across the middle, and put it on the back shoulder of Demarcus Robinson so that he would get down because over the top came Branch and was just absolutely going to tear his head off. You know, Stafford is a very, very talented quarterback. And
Mhm.
like you said, man, aside from that missed pass interference, the Lions might be home. And Puka Nakua, top 10 wide receiver next year, coming off your fantasy boards, undoubtedly. That guy was a man playing in rookie clothes this year. And another guy that you're going to want to put in the top 10 at your positions next year is Jameer Gibbs. That dude is goddamn electric. If they don't figure out ways to get him the ball more next year, then Detroit's doing him a serious disservice because that
He,
dude, he's in another dimension. He sees plays unfold before they unfold. It's insane.
Let me tell you what's going to be a key for Jameer Gibbs. That offseason program, he needs to put on like 12 pounds, maybe 15 pounds of muscle, and then he's going to be your stalwart back. He needs the extra weight, obviously not to lose the quickness, but needs to be a little bit more durable.
Yeah. Yeah, the young players shined. I mean, Gibbs, like you said, Puka with I think it was record receiving in a playoff game. I picked the Rams to win that one in a very close coin toss type of game. Pick
It
them.
was.
But yeah, it came down to it like that. I'm just very curious on how long Sean McVay and Aaron Donald stay. I think that those two guys and Matthew Stafford, maybe you got 2 years left of like true juice there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
I don't
about
really
right.
have much, I don't have much notes on this game. Happy for the Lions.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. It was definitely the most fun game to watch this past weekend, just like I
No.
thought it was going to be. It was electric, that game.
Mhm.
All right,
Fire.
moving on.
All right. Next one that we might as well stick in the NFC, Packers Cowboys. My Super Bowl, probably the Super Bowl.
Oh
What,
man, I
what
mean,
a beautiful game, a
it's a good
masterclass.
weekend for me. I'll just say that.
Yeah, yeah, you probably had a decent one. Who wants I can start if
Yeah, go for it.
yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I've known my literal life. Just the Cowboys doing this exact thing, winning regular season games, choking in the playoffs to really whoever. But this is a game that I don't remember what you guys picked, but I called Packers to win in the upset here. It was on the wall for me written. The Packers have now done this to the Cowboys a few times in the playoffs. Jordan Love seriously looks legit, which is I have my closest friend is a Packers fan and generally want to tap in and see quarterback scouting report and development training programs in Green Bay because going back to back to back, what seems like really good quarterbacks has to be a blessing. Jaden Reed looks really good. That offense looks good. Matt LaFleur coached a decent game. Mike McCarthy probably out as the Dallas Cowboys coach, but that's not going to fix anything. Jerry Jones is running the show. Dak Prescott's still there. That offensive line is getting that much older as well, kind of with the Eagles kind of brand of aging O&D lines. And yeah, sorry, Cowboys.
Yeah, this game pissed me off because you kind of stole my thunder with your analysis there, but this game pissed me off because it solidified one thing to me, and that is that the goddamn Green Bay Packers fucking did it again, man. They had
That's
Aaron Rodgers sit for 2 years behind that decrepit old scumbag Favre. Then you had Jordan Love sit behind that cave dwelling fucking man pleaser for 2 years. And now he comes out of his goddamn shell and he's probably got the best setup out of all three of them. He's got a young nucleus of wide receivers that are all speedy. Outside of Christian Watson, they can all catch. And god damn it, man, they're going to be tough to beat in that friggin' division for the next 10 years because Jordan Love looks like the real deal. That guy in traffic, wide open. It didn't matter. The guy was throwing absolute friggin' dimes. And just, I mean, once they scored that second touchdown, I knew I was like, all right, this is over. Dallas, there's no way Dallas is going to come back because now Jordan Love's got swagger on top of this, and he's just going to keep putting points on the board. And he sure as shit did, man.
Yeah.
Sucks as a Bears fan.
Yeah, I'm
Fuck
sorry
that
for
guy.
you. We said, hey, I remember saying the first couple weeks that the guy looks like Aaron Rodgers. He's thrown
Shut
off
up.
platform. He's jumping like he was mimicking Rodgers in practice. He was in practice with him. He was learning to throw off platform like him. I mean, the guy's doing the jump throws. He looks good. I'm sure he's gonna have to get more consistent with his play, for them to really be a year in year out contender. But man, he looks good. And for the
The best I can
Cowboys,
hope for at this point is a goddamn ice fishing accident.
Real quick.
man, I tell you
Not
what. Go ahead.
not just a little bow on the Packers. A couple things. I mean, as an NFC North fan, you thought just trying to beat the Packers was a problem. Now the Lions look legit too. And I can't wait for Jordan Love to sign with the Jets for 2 years when he's past his prime, because apparently that is also part of just the legend that is Packers quarterbacks. And I think there's two methods of success to win a Super Bowl, or at least be a very valid, competitive, deep playoff team, is either get a stud rookie, pay the rest of the team, give them weapons, and get there with a cheap contract, or you get the guy early. And instead of taking the player and throwing him into the fire and going really deep in the playoffs because he's a stud, You take someone and you let them sit for 2 years. We've seen the Packers do it for what, the last like 35 years. So
Yeah.
those are my big takeaways from the Packers side of things.
Those are good takeaways.
And
Those are really good
hopefully, as a
takeaways.
Bears fan, we get lucky and he shows his dick to a reporter in the locker room. And
Hey, and you know what? What's crazy is that if the Vikings didn't lose Cousins,
Yeah, dude. Oh my,
they could have won the division this year. So I
yeah,
mean, the NFC North is looking stacked. I'll be honest. I mean, they were winning games with Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins and all types of guys. But let me get to the Cowboys. The Cowboys. The Cowboys. The Cowboys. I mean,
the
Dak
fuck.
Prescott. Wow, wow.
Yeah,
Dak Prescott. Wow. How often do you see a quarterback just turn into like a shortstop that shouldn't be in the major leagues? Like the guy just can't get the ball to first. I mean, you
yeah,
seen when he threw that first pick, just went into a mental shell. So for the Cowboys fan, and I hope you clip this. I want you to clip this. I just want to recount the things or the failures that I remember for the Cowboys. I'm gonna go back to 2006. 2006, we're talking about wild card playoffs, the fumbled snap from Romo. The year after, when you're 13-3, I believe, or 14-2, you're home, you're a 7.5 point favorite. You lose to the Giants on your home field. We'll go a few years later. I mean, I'm sure they lost a few in the middle there, but a few years later, when you need to win to get to the playoffs, you lose at home to the Giants. The next year, you lose to the Redskins and RG3 to make the playoffs that year. 2 years later, in Seattle, Dez, he doesn't catch it. I mean, just time after time after time, the Cowboys continue to shoot themselves in the foot. And I hate to agree with Stephen A. Smith sometimes, but you could just count on it. It's like clockwork. It doesn't matter how good they are, how many times they've had one of the best rosters in the league. They just can't get it done in crunch time. It's too much pressure, I think, for those guys. The fans hyped them up too much. I don't know what it is, but they just can't win big games.
yeah.
yeah, and Dak to me doesn't look like the guy either. Hey, it's funny. I'm reading all this internet fodder and all these memes, and I can't tell if Cowboy fans are really out of touch or if it's non-Cowboy fans trolling that
Mm.
keep saying like Dak is still MVP. Just watch that game. Dak looks like the best quarterback ever. We should have won that game. Green Bay had a couple of lucky calls.
Oh no.
Dallas would have blasted either the Rams or Detroit. And I'm thinking about something like this shit's got to be jokes. Because if
Yeah,
you watch that game, Dak not only had one pick six, Dak should have had two pick sixes,
they play the
possibly even three.
play the seventh seed. How are you gonna like if those were Cowboys fans? How are you gonna be like, oh, we would have? You played the seventh seed. You played the seventh seed. You played a quarterback a first time starter, the youngest team in playoff history, at home. When we have an undefeated record at home, you played dog water at home this year. You played no good quarterbacks. Your defense looked good because you played mediocre competition at home. Dak
Yeah,
Prescott, I
and
mean, honestly, Rocky is the one that should be, reevaluate and go and to watch film because Baker Mayfield did good and Dak Prescott did bad.
that's true. Hey, and part of here's the thing. I know what the Cowboys fans are saying. Yeah, the defense gave it up. Defense did give it up. But listen, when you start the game off like that, I just think the whole team is demoralized when you see your quarterback go out there and look scared of the moment. And Dak Prescott, the leader of the team, the spear, the tip of the spear was just soft as dog shit, right? And you just can't win with a guy like that leading your team. You can't do it.
And you saw it, like you hit the nail on the head there. His face. So you watch Green Bay take that kickoff and methodically march down the field, play after positive play down the field for 5.5 minutes or whatever it was, punch the ball into the end zone, and you just saw that look on Dak's face like, oh shit, here we go again. He had that
Yeah.
look from the very beginning. He and CeeDee Lamb couldn't get on the same page. The first hit, CeeDee Lamb in that game reminded me of a toddler that just came out of timeout. He looked like he was just pouty, kind of like
Yeah.
stomping his feet. And
Yeah,
then
it's all
halftime happened. He got probably a goddamn Dak injection, and he came out and in the second half, looked more himself. But for that whole first half, man, he just looked like he was not the best receiver in the league. as he was this year.
As soon as the pressure's gone, then Dak is relaxed and he starts throwing the. I mean, it's just the same old story.
It's a tragedy that the score is what the score was because starters got pulled and it looked like a close game on the box score. But that was
nothing close about that game.
It should have been 45. The real score was like 40-16. And how many here we goes did we get from Dak when they were down? I just want to know that because every time they're home, you hear Dak, yeah, here we go, wearing his beanie as he walks in the stadium, saying his trademark Omaha, if you can even call it that. I just want there to be a YouTube video of how many here we goes we heard when they were, in the shitstorm of the middle of that game.
We can look it up.
Jerry was definitely greasing the palms of the Zebras in that game because that should have been 27-0 at halftime. There was a bullshit call that gave them that 1st and goal. Then there was a bullshit no call on the false start when they got into the goddamn end zone. The Zebras were trying to keep that game close enough to keep Dak's head out of his ass during that second half to try to make a game of it. And again, screw the Packers. But Jordan Love did a great job of just keeping the foot on the throttle and the noose around the neck. And kudos to Green Bay, the 7th seed, knocking off the fraudulent Cowboys.
Genuinely, I think the Eagles' loss is more quote-unquote fine in my book because the Cowboys lost like how they did as well. Like, I can kind of rest a little easy. It'd be – I don't know if you'd see my face.
We didn't win, so they didn't win.
Loser talk.
Yeah. Yeah, if they won and we lost –
that's true.
I would have to reevaluate myself. Like genuinely, I'd have to. I would see unprecedented personality traits for me if that were to happen. If that ever happens, I've been blessed my entire life. My favorite thing of sports is literally my entire life. I've seen Cowboys failure in epic proportions. I can't take that for granted. But yeah, that's all I got for this game. They play the Niners. We'll get into that eventually this episode. And
all right, so let's go to AFC. Yeah.
Next game, and we can go pretty quickly on this one. Bills Steelers. What notes we got for this one?
I mean, hey, nothing. I really don't have anything.
Yeah. The only thing
except for the Tomlin meme. That's about it.
Yeah. He's good at press conference memes. That's my takeaway too.
I love Mike Tomlin and I love the adjustments that he made and actually, put together a couple of scoring drives and kept that a little bit close. My takeaway here was first half, holy shit, Bills are this year's Super Bowl champions. Second half, here we go again. Here comes the epic Bills collapse because they let Pittsburgh back into a game that Pittsburgh had no business being a part of. And Buffalo just did not have that killer instinct. Now, granted, late in the game, they salted it away, but I don't know, man. This has feelings of you got Patrick Mahomes coming to town. I mean, this feels like history is about to repeat itself again.
The Bills are going to the Super Bowl, Mark.
I truly do hope so. Because I think the Bills are a very complete team. But I mean, you have, and we can segue right into the Chiefs game too, since we don't have many notes on this one. But you have a Chiefs team that is playing very, very tight football right now. You have them getting hot at the right time. And I find that every year, if a championship is defined through photos, right, there's always that one defining photo of the championship team that kind of told the story of the playoffs. And God damn it, if Mahomes on that long run breaking his helmet and the images of that doesn't feel like this year's playoffs in pictures and foreshadowing of the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, I don't know what does.
They're losing next week.
And Rice looks pretty good too. The emergence of him next year.
Well, Rice, we were good on Rice, but I still think I just don't think they have enough right now to go on the road and beat the Bills. I think the same cracks that we've seen in the whole second half of the season are going to show. I love Mahomes. I really do. I wish he was a Giant. Shit, they said Ben McAdoo wanted to draft him. I wish they would have let him.
McAdoo, the best Giants head coach of all time.
I think it's going to come down to honestly them breaking Kansas City's contain. I think you're going to have to see Josh Allen moving around a lot. Frank Clark is playing at a high level. George Karlaftis is playing at a high level. L'Jarius Sneed is clamps. That dude is he is latching on. I know Pittsburgh had a couple of, I feel it was more like garbage time, touchdowns with Deontay Johnson. And I
Yeah.
think, no, because I think Sneed was covering Pickens, right?
I missed most of that game, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
No,
It was
I was not tuned in.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: Kansas City, they're not home. It's
Mhm.
not 30 degrees below zero, and they're not playing a team that plays in South Beach. So
Yep.
I think it's time to go home, regroup, retool, and come back better for it next year. I think it's the
Mhm.
Bills' year.
Yeah, speaking of, well, I guess we can just go on to the next one. Chiefs Dolphins. We've talked Chiefs. We said this last week that, or I remember saying it at least, that the Dolphins are 0-10 when it's a little chilly outside, and now they're 0-11. Tua to me doesn't seem legit. I have no idea if he deserves the contract that the rest of his quarterback class got this most recent offseason. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Dolphins now have the longest active streak of not winning a playoff game. It used to be to the Detroit Lions at I think 1992, and now the Dolphins are the only 30 years plus team to not win a playoff game. Blah blah blah. Same old Dolphins it seems. And the Chiefs, kind of like to what Mark said, got right at the right time. That's coaching. That's a masterclass quarterback. But I do think the magic runs out soon. But yeah, that was my easiest. That and the Cowboys game were the two easiest games. This wasn't a surprise to me at all, and those are my only notes.
Yeah, Tua, their season was summed up in that game. It was a microcosm of the entire season. Tua just kind of lofting one up, and depending on the abilities of Tyreek Hill to go get it, and then make that that amazing run after the catch, obviously eluding all kinds of tacklers. That's what the cheetah does. Tua is the AFC Jalen Hurts. If he doesn't have weapons around him, then he is not worth the money.
Listen, I know you taking that as a slight, but I mean, Tua was great this year. I mean, he lost the playoff game in a minus 30-degree weather. They're not used to that. I didn't think it should affect them, but it obviously did. And we've seen this before with McDaniel's offense. Um, they still haven't figured out that other element. I think we all thought they did earlier in the year when that running game was really popping off. But
Yeah.
I still think they need a little bit of in between the tackles, power running. Um, and the Tua Hurts comparison is not crazy. I mean, they went to the same school, and he was benched for Tua. Tua's a great thrower. He's a good passer. I think, I still think there's better days ahead for Tua. I won't go say he's a bust, and I think you do have to pay him because that roster's built for now, and you're not going to restart with a rookie quarterback unless you're trading up and getting a guy you think can step in and play right away. So
Mhm.
they're going to have to bite hard and pay him, because you got the guys to win right now. But I think they're still to be heard from. You can't have that collapse because I think if you play that game in Miami, they probably win.
Yeah, it's definitely a different game. Mark looks like he's in that stadium when negative 30-degree wind chills.
It feels like I'm in the garage. It's cold as shit out here.
Yeah, so if we don't have anything else with that one, without further ado, the very last game was Texans Browns, which what a very fun game to watch as a fan of football. CJ Stroud is the first Ohio State quarterback to actually do it. He looks like a stud. The Texans to be drafting second overall to then winning a playoff game is commendable. And I'm rooting for the Texans. I mean, I think everyone wants like a Texans Lions Super Bowl. That would probably be like the coolest as far as NFL fan goes and like fun and easy to root for games. But man, it sucks to be a Browns fan. That game got ugly fast. The Joe Flacco picks suck, but I think it was a good season for the Browns. I think Browns fans would consider, or maybe not Rocky because Rocky like Super Bowl or bust kind of mentality, but this was a win of a season for the Browns. I think Savansky could have been coach of the year. I think he still has a good chance to do it. That defense looked good. They had probably, I think they were tied for second most injuries of the season. They're on their fourth quarterback. Yeah.
Can I just say that if Cleveland doesn't figure out a way to protect Joe Flacco, he's not going to have a very long career in this league.
Yeah, yeah.
That was Joe Flacco was running for his life. It was a shame to see the old man running around like that because I was really pulling for him. I thought Cleveland had a great chance of winning this game. But let's face it, man. Houston just put it on them. Houston had the two defensive scores. CJ Stroud played like CJ Stroud. He looked really good. And he's doing it without Tank Dell there. I mean, this is a team that came out and surprised a little bit, but when it came time to play and solidify their playoffs, they did. They didn't waver with the rookie quarterback. I think that just is that's going to build to the lure of CJ Stroud. It's going to definitely increase the organization's confidence in CJ Stroud. I think they found their guy. I think Carolina shit the bed passing him up for Bryce Young. I think CJ Stroud is a gamer. He's going to be a good quarterback in this league. And this young Texans team looks like they might be a formidable foe for the foreseeable future.
Hey, so what I'll say is I don't like to rub it in with Rocky because Rocky's a respectful guy and he doesn't I mean unless it's Zach because Zach's a prick. He doesn't rub shit in. So but I will say it's I mean, what a bittersweet pill to swallow for Rocky. I mean, his Ohio boy, guy's been popping up all year, just dashes his dreams. I mean, that was tough to see. And
Yeah, that was gotta be.
kudos to the Browns. I will give them credit. Totally depleted everywhere on their roster. Started four different quarterbacks this year. Offensive line in shambles. Nick Chubb, legs are just disintegrated. It's been tough, and they still were a favorite in that game on the road. Just goes to show you, Rocky was once again wrong, saying that Kevin Stefanski wasn't the guy going into the season. I think he clearly is. He kept that team together. I like the Browns. I don't hate the Browns. I root for the Browns. I hate to root for them because Rocky likes them, but I root for the Browns, and I wanted to see them win just for the Joe Flacco story.
Yeah.
Stroud's gonna have his time, but yeah, he's something, man. He just makes you, for guys like me, and I'll say probably for Mark too, like when you see a guy like that, and then you look at like I'm looking at Jones, who I've been waiting to turn the corner, and you get flashes, and then you just have a guy take the league by
This is
storm in his rookie year. It's like what the fuck, man? It's like come on. It's like why am I, like Fields? Fields has had great games, right? But and then it's like, well, why can't he just be like Stroud?
why can't he be good all the time?
Yeah,
Right? Like
it's
Stroud
like
is
watching
just
Mahomes tear up the league while you're watching your quarterback Mitch Trubisky try to fuck a doorknob. Like it's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, especially when you had the chance to draft Mahomes too. But I mean, the one
That's
Yeah.
thing,
the point.
yeah, the one thing that I'll say, and this might be like a way too early reaction, but the Texans have the South for the next 5 years at least. I mean, they're young. They've got a staple on the D line. We'll understand they've got their stud quarterback. D'Amico Ryans is a culture guy and a good coach. The rest of the AFC South looks kind of in shambles. The Colts do look very, very promising. It's probably going to be Texans Colts. I'm out on the Jags. It took one season of belief for me to just not do it next year. And with AR coming
How
back, the
about
Colts
how about
could
the
be.
Jags, man? What do you do if you're the Jags now? Now you see Stroud take the division by storm. You falter at the end of the season, and you thought you had your guy in Stampede. Now you're looking at potentially being the third best team in your division with no, playoffs are going to be. You're going to be shooting for wild cards and getting lucky at that because you got to face the Texans twice. You got to face the Colts twice. And they finished second in the division. So I mean, they're playing the second best team in every division next year. Do you sell kind of high on Trevor Lawrence at this point? I mean,
That's crazy.
it is crazy to think, but it's also you don't have the best quarterback in the division anymore.
It's their best. It's arguably one of their best quarterbacks they've ever had, though.
Well, I mean, I would argue Mark Brunell for sure,
Mark
but
Brunell's the best quarterback they ever had.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you're talking T-Law and who, Blake Bortles?
No,
It's like,
I'd even put David Garrard up there.
hmm.
yeah.
Go
I
look
think
that up, Zach.
I think NFC North, AFC South, two best divisions to watch when I don't have because I have no stake in that game, and also just extreme competitiveness between all four teams in both divisions. Maybe not the Titans because they canned Vrabel for no friggin' reason at all, but
Yeah, that
yeah.
was stupid. That was
Birdman.
stupid.
All right, well, that was what happened. We'll get into what will happen. Before we do that, quick little plug from Chalkboard. Get ready for next season, fantasy football wise, by clicking the link in the bio, scanning the QR code on screen. We have an entirely free group chat for you to join on the Chalkboard app. We've got Rocky's cheat sheets, we've got Mark start sits, we got Phil's picks. We have an entire group chat of 300 plus people just batting opinions off each other, asking questions 24/7, getting answers 24/7. It's an awesome chat, and you should join. It helps out the show. So do yourself a favor, do us a favor, join Chalkboard. Without further ado, we're getting into the next series of the 2024 playoffs. And I mean, we can start with NFC since we just finished up with AFC, and we can go start with Packers Niners probably. And I guess we should be brief because we're probably running a little long. I'm just going to tell you who I think is going to win. I think the Niners will win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anybody beating San Francisco this year. I think they're the most complete team. Uh, Brock Purdy, I don't care what any of these naysayers say. He is a very, very capable and competent quarterback. He limits, I mean, we saw a 4 interception game this year, but he limits damage and he has got weapons galore. Now, would he revert to Jalen Hurts without those weapons? Probably assuredly so. But guess what? We don't have to worry about that because he's got weapons and he's got them all over the field. I think they pretty handily put the Packers fans back in their place this weekend for sure.
Or so you hope. I
Oh, I
mean,
definitely hope.
they are 10-point favorites.
That's crazy. That's a big number.
Yeah, I'm a little torn here. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everything in my head is saying to pick the Niners here
Mm-hmm.
because they should win this game
I'm
easily.
picking. That's your
There's
best.
something tugging at my heartstrings here saying the Packers got a little mojo going.
Yep.
They went on the road and beat a big favorite already. I don't know, man. What do you guys think I should do?
I can tell you what I think is going to happen and what I want to happen. I do not want a Niners win. I think they're going to edge it out, but there is a real possibility of the Packers winning this game because of game plan. Shanahan, I think, is like 0 and like 27 when trailing at halftime. Can't come back from games because of the run style and just the way they play offense. I mean, I'm taking Packers to cover. I can tell you that much.
All I'm saying is Bosa, Young, Warner. I mean, this
Yeah.
isn't the Dallas Cowboys defense.
Mm.
Okay. This is a team that is going to get after Love. They're going to put pressure on Love. And this is where the inexperience may show in the route running of the wide receivers. You may see them, the timing be thrown off a little bit because he's not going to have the amount of time to find his receivers that he did against Dallas.
All right, you talked me out of it. All right, I'm gonna take the Niners. Taking the Niners.
All right. Next game is going to be Bucks Lions. I think this is also very close. For some reason, I think that the Packers upsetting has more likelihood than the Bucks do. I'm going to take the Lions. I'm taking both favorites.
I thought we were gonna go in the same order, Mark.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm going. I'm going total chalk here too. I'm on the Eminem bandwagon. Let's go out there and win
Mark
one
likes rap
golf for this city of Detroit. There's not much to say here. I think that Baker Mayfield's questionable decision making in that game that he got away with against the lackluster Philly defense will not pay the same dividends this week in Detroit. This city is fired up. If there's a 12th man award this year, it is to the city of Detroit. They're behind this team, and this is the most talented team they've probably ever had in that city.
That's my dog of the week. I'm going Bucks here. Big Baker Mayfield.
Ugh, I would hate this.
Planting his flag in the middle of Fort Field this weekend, okay?
I would. I don't like Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. My friend's a Buccaneers fan.
Because you grew up with them?
No, did not grow up with the Bucks.
Okay.
The Bucks, like players and just team in general, like I don't necessarily hate. I like hanging out in Tampa. City's cool. Treasure Island's cool. But the fans, I'm not rooting for those guys.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't
Mhm.
know. Bucks fans to me seem like fair weather fans. They seem like they didn't really hop on a train until Tommy B came to town, and now once the season ends and once you see Baker revert to shitty Baker next year, I think everyone's gonna hop off the Tampa Bay train and just worry about hitting the Gulf Coast for some rays.
Go Bucks.
From NFC to AFC, Texans Ravens. Man, would it be cool if the Texans won this game?
It would be, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, Ravens.
Yeah, pretty easily too. That defense is demonstrative. They're going to put a lot of
Demonstrative.
pressure on. They're going to put a lot of pressure on Stroud.
They really demonstrate what they're doing.
Demonstrative.
Lamar is going to correct past Lamar mistakes, and I think Baltimore wins this pretty handily.
I will take the Ravens here.
All right. Moving on, Chiefs Bills. Very interesting game. I think a lot closer than I think everyone thinks it's probably gonna be a very close game. This is my Brady Big Ben. I only caught the back end kind of that. I'm gonna go with the Bills.
You mean You mean Brady Manning?
Well, and Big Ben. Well, I guess all three of them.
Not Big Ben.
I guess you're right. Yeah, maybe I misspoke. Maybe because Big Ben is like Josh Allen, like just prototype wise, but
Yeah.
I'm taking Buffalo.
Because they're fat. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'm taking Buffalo as well.
I'm taking Buffalo in the best game of the weekend. This is going to be close. I think this is going to come down to a field goal. I don't like counting out Mahomes, and the emergence of Rashee Rice as a legit second target behind Travis Kelce has sparked some enthusiasm in this offense. Pacheco still running like a goddamn madman. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is also running with a little bit of swag in his step too. As he looks like a guy that's finally swallowed his pride and is kind of living up to his potential. He had a couple of low-key big 10, 11, 12-yard runs in last weekend's game. So I think Kansas City's playing very good football at the right time. And I think that if there is any upset this weekend, this is the only potential.
I thought you said you picked Buffalo.
I did pick Buffalo. But I'm saying I'm hedging. I'm saying that Kansas City, if there's any upsets this week, it's Kansas City.
Get the fuck out of here.
Phil smelled something fishy there. All right, cool. Well,
oh man,
I guess we'll see you next week when we talk about how our predictions went and how those games went. If you're not already doing it, join CHALKBOARD. If you're not already doing it,
do it.
Drive Fantasy, do it. It's good for you. It's good for you.
Do it.
Like and subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. How's your week been? Follow us on our socials at G1 Podcast. Hopefully, all four of us, or at least a rendition of the three of us, will be here next week, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.